Hey folks, it's the Rockeress here, and to sort of change up the channel a bit because I've been very silent on the old recording, I've actually sort of worked on a sort of little countdown, as it were. Now, throughout my life, I've always sort of been around horror movies, watched them from a very young age, sort of desensitised me to them, as it were. So that in turn gave me some of the most favourite characters in movies: vampires, werewolves, and the list that we're actually going to tackle today, my personal favourite, zombies. Now, throughout gaming, there's been a lot of sort of instances of really good zombie games, zombie DLCs, and what's the other thing I'm looking for? Yeah, just there's sort of zombie appearances, whereas they're in a game, but they're sort of not marketed as a zombie game as such. So today's list is just going to be my top 10 sort of favourite zombie appearances in games. So most of them are actually zombie based games, but some people might not agree with me on some of them, so yeah. So I hope you enjoy the list, and we'll start with number 10.
Number 10.
So yeah, kicking us off is a fun little sort of indie game from Keldon Interactive. It's called Dead Meets Lead. It's an extremely challenging zombie slaying action game. You have the role of a 18th century commander who's pretty much just on a worldwide mission to obliterate evil. So you actually can pick this one up through the Desura website, Desura client. I really recommend it. It's actually a very, very fun game.
Number 9.
So this one should be pretty obvious. It's as to why it's on this list. It's Left 4 Dead. It was published by the great folks at Valve and Turtle Rock. Developed and published by Valve and Turtle Rock for the PC, and EA, I think it was, that actually covered the console release. It's the series itself, I'm not including 1 or 2, I'm just meaning both of them, are set around the sort of same time as days after like a pandemic outbreak of this sort of zombie virus, and you go one of 4 survivors to sort of get to these safe houses and pretty much just get rescued by the military, surviving waves and waves of hordes zombies. It's actually a really fun game for you to play with your friends as well. So I needed to put this one on the list.
Number 8.
So coming in at number 8 is Plants vs Zombies. It's a really fun tower defense game published and developed by PopCap Games. It uses plants, like modified plants with sort of certain abilities, like maybe a pea shooter or a frozen pea shooter, pretty much going up against these waves of zombies, resulting in a sort of big epic battle at the end of the level. The plants are there mostly to protect your house, but also your brains as well.
Number 7.
Killing Floor originally started as a mod to Unreal Tournament 2004, and the people at Tripwire decided to give it a full retail release in May 2009, I think it was. It features, again, like some on this list, wave style gameplay, resulting in a sort of big boss battle at the end. You also have traders, which you can purchase new weapons, items like grenades and armour, because you get money for each sort of kill that you do. You also have a perk system which will give your character certain bonuses to that perk, so maybe you're quicker at welding doors or have a higher armour rating. It's mostly aimed at a sort of 4-player co-op, but it's very good to see how long you can actually survive on a single player campaign.
Number 6.
Again, not another surprising one is Dead Rising, the series. Again, I couldn't pick between one or two because both of them had such great elements. I never actually really played the spin-offs of the games, but the main story, 1 and 2, was so fantastic. It was developed by Capcom. Both games were released in. Dead Rising was released in 2006. Dead Rising 2 in 2010. It's an open world survival horror game. You've got a 3-day limit, which you can do whatever you want. Kill as many zombies as you want with all varied different types of items and weapons. Also, there is a sort of story behind it, so if you want to sort of follow up on the story, you've got the freedom to do that. So that's what I loved about this game, and the amount of zombies that were actually on screen was just incredible. So yeah, definitely very highly rated in my opinion.
Number 5.
I mean, how can you not love this next game with the title, with the name Zombies Ate My Neighbours? It was actually developed by LucasArts and published by Konami. It's a run and gun game. It was actually released way back in '93, if you can believe it, for the SNES and the Genesis, if I'm right. You, and if you've got one, I didn't at the time, a friend can sort of take control of Zeke and Julie to pretty much help rescue your neighbours in different sort of circumstances. So you'll have like a backyard, you'll have a mall, you'll have different sort of levels, but you sort of get more advanced weaponry, different power-ups to sort of aid you in this, to help you battle these zombies and save your neighbours, as it were. The premise behind it was actually really quite cool, that you didn't have to save everybody, but you got a bigger score bonus if you did. So I really enjoyed that. It really sort of gave you something to strive for.
Number 4.
I'm very excited to talk about this next one because, as you know, I've actually done a let's play, sort of. I need to actually go back to it. I actually might do a live stream on it, just sort of play it constantly. Anyway, I get distracted very easily. Yeah, Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie Army. It has to be one of my favourite games ever. I was actually going to put Call of Duty Zombies, but this game sort of bet it out. Just in my opinion. I know that a lot of COD fans will be like throwing daggers at me, but I honestly thought this was the better game. The loadouts were fantastically done. The sort of action shot where you sort of really hit a long distance shot makes you feel that sort of achievement that you've done something good. And watching a bullet go through is just the sort of icing on the cake, as it were. It was developed by Rebellion and published by 505 Games, released in February this year actually, as a sort of standalone / expansion through the Steam client. It was for Sniper Elite V2. It was like the sort of add-on to that, but it was also marketed as a standalone title. It follows the sort of what if premise that Hitler's sort of losing, and so he busts out the big weapon and pretty much raises the dead and makes them fight against the enemy. So you pretty much have a Germany that's overrun with zombies. It's very similar to Left 4 Dead, in that you've got a set level structure, and then you've to reach a safe house to sort of replenish your ammo and everything like that. But it also features sort of oh no, what they're called. It's the names left me right now, but sort of you have this sort of attack, this sort of ambush of zombies, and it's just a large amount of zombies, very reminiscent of like a Dead Rising game, just lots of zombies on screen at once, where you have to sort of booby trap a set hold just so you can just so it can help you survive. So definitely very excited to put this on my list.
Number 3.
So if you watched my Typing of the Dead video I done a little while back, my first impressions video, you'll know this game would have been on here. House of the Dead. I mean the series as a whole, not the actual Typing of the Dead. I mean the House of the Dead, the old light gun game. It's a rail shooter developed by Sega and WoW Entertainment. It was also published by Sega. It was actually first released in '97, and as of 2009 there was actually 5 main games, but numerous spin-offs. So the core basis of the game is it's separated into chapters, each which will result in an ending boss battle. The first 4 games, their bosses were actually all named after the major arcana of the occult tarot. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. It's always a game that I will sort of revert back to. You can use the light gun, or as of sort of PC days, you can use your mouse and keyboard. So it's definitely one that I always sort of hold quite close to me.
Number 2.
So with the popularity of the TV show The Walking Dead, Telltale Games decided they would sort of do a episodic point and click adventure role playing game. It's set in the same universe as the comics, although most of the characters are actually sort of just original to the game. So the game follows university professor and convicted killer Lee Everett, who stumbles upon a house and subsequently rescues and cares for a young woman called Clementine. The thing I loved about this game, and I absolutely mean loved, this has to be one of the best games I've actually ever played, just over any sort of genre. The choices that you make in the previous episode will come over to the sort of next episode. There was 5 episodes in total, so without actually saying too much, if you let someone die, certain people will look at you differently, so you might not have the same trust. So there's a ton, and I mean a ton, of replayability to sort of try and see what could have been if you went down a certain alleyway. It's one that I'll always sort of keep in my game library. It was so fantastically done, and I think I heard that they were doing a second season of the sort of point and click game, so I cannot wait to see if they actually do or not. It's going to be fantastic.
Number 1.
Now I know that you must have been expecting maybe Call of Duty Zombies, because it seems to have sort of grew in popularity, or even the sort of obvious choice of Resident Evil, but what those games lack was the originality of this game. Stubbs the Zombie has to be the best game. I wouldn't say it's definitely in my top 5, but it's the best zombie game I've ever played. The idea that you go this salesman from the 30s who wakes up in a town in the late 50s, and sort of his journey to try and get back with his sort of love interest, and along the way you sort of just build up your zombie army just by like sort of munching on random people and sort of cops. You've got so many sort of weapons in your arsenal as well, if you can call them that. Your sort of exploding spleen, you can take your head off and bowl it. You can take off your hand and possess people with it, and also you've got gas that knocks out half a city block. So, as said, this has to be the best zombie game ever, just on the sort of original idea. Whereas a lot of these other games on this list focus on taking out zombies, this game really focused in on what it's like to actually be a zombie, and I loved that. So yeah, as I said, you go Eddie Stubbs, who has pretty much just returned from the grave and found that his love interest is still alive, and so it's pretty much on the journey to try and get back with her. Not sort of not thinking about the fact that he's now a zombie. So yeah, it was actually published by Aspire Media and developed by Wide Load Games. It was released on the PC and Xbox, I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was anyway. So yeah, this definitely has to sort of top the list for me.
So yeah, that was my list. Stubbs the Zombie definitely had to take the top spot, just in my opinion. Again, Call of Duty Zombies and the likes of like Resident Evil are fantastic games, but Call of Duty for me was always the sort of wartime shooters that didn't really sort of focus on that. Not to say that I don't love the actual mod, it is fantastic. Just it's not what Call of Duty was about. There was Zombie Elite, right enough, but at the same time, and yeah, with Resident Evil, it strayed way too far from its survival horror roots. So really sort of haven't really liked much of the games since Resident Evil 4, so I tend to sort of stay away from them. 6 wasn't too bad, but if I had a choice, I'd rather gladly play maybe Resident Evil 1 or 2 and sort of stick with that, but it's the only reason they weren't on this list. So, and as I said, Stubbs is just awesome, you can't sort of deny that. So if you disagree though, just leave a comment, just saying whatever you want really. I know there's going to be a lot of people there that disagree with me, but as I said, this was just my personal choice. I know it's not everybody's choice, but what can we do? So on those words, I will actually let Stubbs send us out. He's got a little inspirational speech, so let's see what he has to say.
Brains, 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 brains.